My name is Antonio. I've been a doorman here in Manhattan for over 40 years. In all that time, I've seen everything in these hallways. Happy marriages, families forming, but I've also seen the dark side of people, when greed and pride destroy everything. This is the story of Michael and Diana, a couple from apartment 712. It's about how a man lost everything by believing he was untouchable, and how a silent woman turned into pure ice when she decided enough was enough. I met Michael and Diana when they moved into the building about 6 years ago. He was a real estate broker, one of those full of himself types, always in expensive suits, watch gleaming from afar, strong cologne. She was an accountant, discreet, always polite to me, smiled when she passed through the lobby. They seemed like a normal couple at first. He was talkative and expansive, she more reserved. But over time, I started noticing changes. Michael started arriving late, always late. 2, 3 in the morning. I was there at the desk, saw everything. He'd come out of his car, stumbling, reeking of whiskey and women's perfume. It wasn't her perfume. I knew Diana's perfume. It was something discreet, soft. What clung to him was heavy, flashy, cheap. He didn't even try to hide it. He'd enter the elevator with that little smirk of someone who thought he was on top of the world, that nobody could touch him. Diana changed too. Before, she'd come down in the morning smiling, chat with me about the weather, about my grandchildren. But she became quiet, serious, with deep, dark circles under her eyes. She stopped smiling. Sometimes I'd see her come down at dawn. As if she couldn't sleep, she'd sit on the lobby bench, staring into nothing. Once I asked if everything was okay. She looked at me with those tired eyes and said, "I'm fine, Antonio. Just tired from work." But I knew it wasn't just work. It was pain. It was loneliness. It was the weight of carrying a marriage that was rotting from the inside. Michael didn't care about being discreet. There was one night he arrived with a woman. That's right. He brought his mistress to the building. I was at the desk. It was around 11 at night. He came in, laughing loudly, the woman hanging on his arm, all dolled up, platinum blonde hair, tight dress, high heels. She was young, must have been about 25. They walked past me as if I were invisible, didn't even look in my direction. They went up to apartment 712, his apartment, the apartment he shared with his wife. I sat there, not knowing what to do. Was Diana up there? Would she arrive and find the two of them? My stomach turned just thinking about it, but then I remembered I'd seen her leave earlier with a small suitcase. She'd said she was visiting her mother upstate. He waited for her to leave to bring the other woman. What kind of man does that? They stayed there about 2 hours. When they came down, he was still laughing. She was clinging to him. They got in his car, a black BMW, and left. I sat there, feeling an anger I rarely feel. Anger at men who think they can do whatever they want, that their wife is just furniture at home, that she doesn't deserve respect. Diana came back the next day. I looked at her differently, with pity, wanting to say something, but not knowing how. She passed through the lobby, greeted me as always, but I noticed something different about her. She didn't seem sad. She seemed cold. Her eyes had a hardness I'd never seen before, like something had changed inside, like she'd made a decision. In the following weeks, Michael got even worse. He started humiliating Diana openly. One night, they came back together from some event. I heard their conversation in the lobby, him talking loud, shameless. She looked beautiful, in a blue dress, discreet makeup. He looked at her with contempt and said, "You're looking old, you know." Boring. Vanessa. Now that's a real woman. You don't even come close to her level. You stay home counting other people's money, while I live life out there with women who really appreciate me. I waited for her to react, scream, cry, hit him. But no. Diana stood still, looking at him with a calmness that was frightening. She didn't say a word. She simply turned around and went to the elevator. Michael stood there as if he'd expected a reaction and didn't get one. He got in after her, but her silence was louder than any scream. It was around that time I started noticing Diana was different. She started leaving earlier, coming back later, always with a briefcase, always serious, focused. She didn't talk about the marriage, didn't complain, didn't cry. She just worked and waited for the right moment. Then came that night. It was a Thursday, I remember, because Thursday is always a quieter day in the building. Michael arrived around 3 in the morning, drunk, stumbling. He had on a new shirt, dark blue, strong cologne. He walked past me without saying anything, entered the elevator humming. He was happy, full of himself. I thought, this man has no idea what's coming. The next day, Friday, around 9 in the morning, Michael came running down to the lobby, face red, sweating, panicked. He was screaming into his phone, pushed past me without asking permission, went out to the street yelling, "You can't do this to me. It's a lie. All lies. I didn't hide anything." He paced back and forth on the sidewalk, gesticulating, desperate. I'd never seen him like that. He'd always been so confident, so sure of himself. Now he looked like a drowning man. He stayed out there almost an hour. When he came back, he was pale, shaking. He sat on the lobby bench, head in his hands. I went over to him, asked if he needed anything, water, a cup of coffee. He lifted his face, and I saw he was crying. Really crying. Tears falling, nose running. "She destroyed me," he said, voice breaking. "My wife destroyed me. I lost everything. Everything." I didn't fully understand what had happened, but I knew it had to do with Diana. Later that same day, she arrived. She was in a suit, heels, hair up, impeccable makeup. She looked like a powerful executive, confident. She passed through the lobby and I couldn't resist, asked if everything was okay. She stopped, looked at me with those cold eyes and said, "Now yes, Antonio, now everything is fine." She smiled, but it wasn't a smile of happiness. It was a smile of victory. Gradually, I pieced together the story. Other residents commented, gossip circulated. Michael had lost his job. He'd been fired for fraud. He'd tried to sell a house with serious structural problems to a couple of clients, hiding the defects to secure a fat commission. But someone reported him. Someone sent all the evidence to the clients and his boss. That someone was Diana. The clients, I found out later, were old acquaintances of hers. They trusted her, respected her, and when she told them her own husband was trying to deceive them, selling a house that would collapse in a few years, they cancelled everything. Not only did they cancel, they sued his firm. Michael was fired immediately. He lost his broker's license, lost his reputation. Nobody in the city would hire him anymore. His name became synonymous with fraud. And it didn't stop there. Diana filed for divorce and division of assets. The apartment they lived in was in both their names. She demanded her share, plus compensation for emotional damages. She had proof of everything, photos, messages, witnesses. She documented every betrayal, every humiliation, and presented it all in court. Michael didn't stand a chance. He was forced to sell the apartment, pay her share, and still ended up with debts. The mistress, this Vanessa, disappeared. When Michael lost the money, lost his job, lost his status, she blocked him, didn't want to know anymore. He tried calling, sending messages. She simply vanished from his life, because what she wanted wasn't the man, it was the lifestyle. And without money, Michael had nothing left to offer. I saw Michael leave the building for the last time about 2 months after that fateful Friday. He was unrecognizable. Thin, bearded, wrinkled clothes, old suitcase in hand. He was going to live with an aunt in Queens, from what I heard. Got a job at a warehouse, earning minimum wage, loading boxes. The successful broker, the man who wore a Rolex and drove a BMW, now loading boxes in a hot, sweaty warehouse. When he passed by me, I said, "Good luck, Michael." He stopped, looked at me, and for the first time in 6 years, he really saw me. Not as the invisible Doorman, but as a human being. He nodded, voice weak. "Thank you, Antonio. Take care of Diana for me. Tell her that I—" He stopped, shook his head. "No, never mind. She doesn't want to hear from me anyway." And he left. Diana continued living in the building for a few more months. She'd bought a smaller apartment, studio type in Brooklyn, but was finishing some things before moving. In those months, I talked with her a few times. She was different, lighter, happier. She told me she'd gone back to school, got a master's degree, got a huge promotion at work. She was going to be transferred to the company's international branch, travel the world, earn in euros. Her life had taken off. Once I asked if she didn't feel sorry for Michael for how he'd ended up. She looked at me with those grey, cold eyes and said, "Antonio, I spent 5 years of my life being humiliated, betrayed, disrespected. 5 years in silence, enduring, waiting for him to change. He never changed. He treated me like trash, like I was worth nothing. So I decided that if he didn't respect me, I was going to respect myself. I was going to free myself. And that's what I did." She continued, "I didn't destroy Michael out of revenge, Antonio. I freed myself from him. He destroyed himself with the lies, the betrayals, the arrogance. I just shed light on the dirt he was hiding. He lost everything because he built his life on lies and fraud. I don't feel sorry for him. I don't feel anger. I simply feel nothing. He doesn't exist for me anymore. And that indifference, that freedom of feeling nothing, is my greatest victory." The day she moved, I helped carry the last boxes to her car. She gave me a hug, something she'd never done before, and said, "Thank you for always being kind to me, Antonio. You saw me when no one else did." That meant a lot. She got in the car and left, to her new life, free, strong, reborn from the ashes of the marriage that almost destroyed her. And Michael, I heard he's still working at the warehouse, living at his aunt's place in Queens, alone, broken. He lost everything. The money, the status, the wife, the mistress, the reputation. All because of arrogance, because he thought he could do whatever he wanted without consequences. He learned the hardest way possible that every action has a reaction, that every betrayal has a price, and that sometimes the quietest person is the most dangerous when they decide to react. This story taught me something important. Never underestimate quiet people, those who suffer in silence, who endure, who observe. Because when they decide to act, they act with surgical precision, with planning, with coldness. Michael thought Diana was weak, submissive, tied to him by the mortgage and fear. He didn't realize she was strong, strategic, and was just waiting for the right moment to cut the ropes that bound her. Her revenge wasn't hot, explosive, emotional. It was cold, calculated, devastating. She didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. She simply gathered the evidence, waited for the perfect moment, and cut every pillar that supported his fake life. And when everything collapsed, she came out unscathed, stronger, while he sank into the ruins he himself built. Today, when I see couples passing through the lobby, I always remember this story. I remember Michael, so confident, so arrogant, thinking he was invincible, and Diana, quiet, observant, waiting. And I think, be careful who you underestimate. Be careful who you betray, humiliate, disrespect. Because the most dangerous person isn't the one who screams, who threatens. It's the one who smiles, who waits, and who acts when you least expect it, destroying everything you built on lies. Cold fire of justice, that's what Diana called it. It's not impulsive revenge that burns you too. It's calculated, cold, precise justice that only destroys the target, leaving you free to rebuild your life. And that's exactly what she did. She destroyed the man who was destroying her and was reborn from the ashes, stronger, freer, happier. And Michael, he learned too late that there are people you shouldn't betray, especially those who truly loved you, who gave you chances, who endured in silence. Because when those people decide enough is enough, they don't look back. They simply turn around and leave you behind in the ruins of the life you yourself destroyed. And there's no money, no excuse, no regret that brings them back. This is the coldest story I've witnessed, and I tell it as a reminder that respect, loyalty, and dignity aren't optional in a relationship. They're fundamental, and when you throw them away, don't complain when you lose everything.